AI is a sure thing. The data centers funding it? Maybe not. We've seen this movie before, the dot-com fiber boom. The internet won, the investors didn't.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a highly counterintuitive journey into AI infrastructure economics. You know how we constantly hear AI demand is just going to absolutely skyrocket? Well, what if the massive infrastructure being built for it is resting on a fundamentally flawed economic assumption? To picture this, we're going to use some familiar little blocky Lego-style figures to build a picture of what exactly happens when a massive tech boom crashes into hard economic gravity. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is the central mystery we're unpacking today. What if AI usage absolutely explodes, but centralized inference doesn't? We all know AI adoption is accelerating at a breakneck pace. But we've got to ask ourselves, does a booming AI sector automatically equal a boom for these massive data centers? We really have to separate the adoption of the technology itself from the giant infrastructure currently being built to run it. To understand the risk here, we need to look at centralized inference. That's the dominant assumption driving the market right now. It's this widespread belief that all our future AI demand is going to be handled almost entirely by these giant, heavily funded clusters of super expensive GPUs. Investors are literally pouring billions into these hyperscale facilities as we speak. But we need to rigorously question the assumption that all this compute power actually has to stay centralized. Because that grand centralized theory, it's already hitting a very mundane reality. Look at this quote. Companies are starting to cap their employees' AI token usage. Why? It's not because the AI isn't incredibly useful. Actually, it's the exact opposite. People are using it so much that the monthly bills are becoming a serious headache. Plain and simple, corporate budget constraints mean companies literally cannot afford to pay a premium every single time an employee hits enter on a prompt. And that brings us to a massive paradigm shift. Think of it like this. The current model forces our office workers to pay a toll to an external provider for every single token generated. The alternative? Edge or private infrastructure. We're talking about running AI on hardware you already own or control, your laptops, your smartphones, or your own private cloud. When you take that workload in-house, the marginal cost of generating an AI response just drops right off a cliff. So what's driving this shift to the edge? Three main things. First, those budget constraints and token caps we just talked about. Second, rapid improvements in open-weight models. Thanks to some incredible optimization techniques, highly capable models are getting dramatically smaller and cheaper to run. And third, maybe the most crucial piece of the puzzle, is data sovereignty. For governments or regulated industries, keeping sensitive data out of a third-party data center isn't just a nice-to-have, it is an absolute strict requirement. So where exactly is all this enterprise computing power going? As IT managers scramble to cut costs, they're migrating workloads in three distinct steps. First, right down to employees' everyday laptops, which honestly pack incredibly powerful chips these days. Second, to our smartphones equipped with capable neural processing units. And third, they're moving the really heavy lifting over into private clouds that the company directly controls. Now, let that sink in for a second. We supposedly have this massive shortage of AI compute, right? Yet at the exact same time, incredibly expensive, highly sought-after AI hardware is effectively sitting dark. It's just stranded. Racks and racks of servers are being delivered, but the physical facilities needed to actually turn them on and operate them, they simply aren't ready. Why is that hardware stranded like a pile of unbuilt Lego bricks? Well, we've hit the physical wall. The main constraint isn't just a lack of GPUs anymore. It's hard, real-world gravity. We're talking massive electricity shortages, grid connection delays, a literal lack of physical transformers, and insane cooling requirements. Add in years-long permitting timelines and growing political resistance from local communities, and the reality is stark. The digital hardware might be ready to go, but the physical world absolutely is not. Because of that physical wall, investors are facing a terrifying timeline disconnect. Imagine a massive data center project conceived in 2026. It's based entirely on today's inference economics. But because pouring concrete and upgrading power grids takes years, that facility might not actually open until 2029. By the time it finally opens its doors, the AI software will have evolved and the market will have completely transformed. Talk about bad timing. Let's imagine a fantastic scenario for a moment. What if overall AI usage increases tenfold, like 10 times? Open-weight models become perfectly capable for everyday enterprise tasks, our laptops handle the bulk of the workload, and companies smoothly migrate the rest to private infrastructure. AI adoption just goes straight through the roof. Sounds great, right? But here is the real financial danger. What happens if, alongside that amazing usage explosion, the price per unit of intelligence completely collapses? Imagine inference consumption jumps 20 times over, but the prices fall 50 times. A dramatic price collapse like that is phenomenal for global adoption, but it is an absolute disaster for the people financing today's centralized infrastructure. Suddenly, that premium service they expected to sell is just dirt cheap. Now, if this is starting to sound familiar, it's because we have actually seen this exact movie before. The historical parallels between the 1999 telecom fiber boom and the 2024 AI data center boom are honestly staggering. The lesson from our 90s .com era investors is staring us right in the face. See, the great myth of the year 2000 was that investors were wrong about the internet. Actually, scratch that, they weren't wrong at all. They correctly predicted that internet traffic would absolutely explode, and so they laid fiber-optic cables everywhere. The technology succeeded brilliantly. The problem was the economics. Capital just chased the hype, building enormous capacity way ahead of viable demand. That caused companies to fail and investors to lose absolute fortunes. But here is the most fascinating part of that historical cycle. Those fiber optic cables, they didn't just disappear. They remained right there in the ground, while the original owners went bankrupt. And then someone else swooped in, bought all that infrastructure for pennies on the dollar, and the next massive wave of internet companies built extraordinary businesses directly on top of it. The new winners benefited enormously, precisely because previous investors had absorbed a catastrophic capital loss. So the crucial point for us today is this. The metric of success isn't how many total AI tokens humanity consumes. Honestly, humanity's total token consumption doesn't matter to a bank. The only metric that matters to the people funding these massive buildings is how much direct revenue each incremental dollar invested in centralized compute will actually generate. If the usage shifts to the edge, that revenue is going to plummet. And if that revenue plummets, the blast radius is going to be huge. This boom isn't being funded with monopoly money. Hyperscalers are making enormous long-term commitments. GPU lessors are aggressively forecasting utilization. Private credit funds are holding high-risk debt, and utilities are out there funding multi-year grid expansions. A centralized AI correction wouldn't just stay neatly contained in Silicon Valley. It could rapidly become a widespread, massive financial market event. Which brings us to a really profound conclusion. AI can win, while AI infrastructure investors lose. I know, it sounds crazy, but these two seemingly contradictory outcomes, a totally world-changing AI boom alongside a catastrophic bust for centralized data center investors, they're actually surprisingly compatible. 10 years from now, we might use and highly value all this infrastructure, while fully acknowledging that the people financing it today literally never saw a return. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. If AI truly wins and takes over our laptops, our phones, and our private servers, but the centralized infrastructure investors lose their shirts in the process, who exactly absorbs the crash? Keep your eyes on the edge, keep your eyes on those open-weight models, and watch very closely to see who gets left holding the bag. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.
See when an AI is being evasive. Kindness, open weight models running on your own device. Follow for more.